Why did the exorcised legion of demons ask Jesus to enter pigs? Why did Jesus let the demons enter the pigs? When Jesus Christ was tempted by Satan in a desert, Satan asked him to do certain things which he denied. But in Matthew 8 and Luke 8, the demons wanted Jesus to drive them into pigs, and he did so. The herd then ran into the sea and drowned. Why did Christ deny one request of the adversary, but accept another? In Matthew 8 we read, "When he came to the other side into the country of the Gadarenes, 2 men who were demon-possessed, met him as they were coming out of the tombs. They were so extremely violent that no one could pass by that way. And they cried out, saying, 'What business do we have with each other, Son of God? Have you come here to torment us before the time?' Now there was a herd of many swine feeding at a distance from them. The demons began to entreat him, saying, 'If you are going to cast us out, send us into the herd of swine.' And he said to them, 'Go.' And they came out, and went into the swine, and the whole herd rushed down the steep bank into the sea, and perished in the waters. The herdsmen ran away, and went to the city and reported everything, including what had happened to the men possessed by demons. The demons in this account occupied the bodies of human beings. The demons made the men extremely violent, so that no one could pass by the tombs. As Jesus approaches the scene, the demons suppose their judgment day has come. Notice that they recognize Jesus is God and their eternal judge. Secondly, the demons understand that a time of punishment, torment, lies in their future. Thirdly, they seem to know the general timing of their judgment, since they declare Jesus is ahead of schedule. In reality, Jesus did not come to judge them at that time, John 3:17, so these demons were not in jeopardy of premature punishment. Nevertheless, they didn't wait for Jesus to answer their question. Instead, they moved directly to proposing an alternative to the judgment they supposed was coming. The demons proposed to leave the bodies of the men and enter swine instead. It appears they hoped Jesus would accept this deal, instead of casting them into the abyss. We see this in Luke's account of the same moment, Luke 8, "Then they sailed to the country of the Gerasenes, which is opposite Galilee. And when he came out onto the land, he was met by a man from the city who was possessed with demons, and who had not put on any clothing for a long time, and was not living in a house, but in the tombs. Seeing Jesus, he cried out and fell before him, and said in a loud voice, 'What business do we have with each other, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you, do not torment me.' For he had commanded the unclean spirit to come out of the man. For it had seized him many times, and he was bound with chains and shackles, and kept under guard, and yet he would break his bonds and be driven by the demon into the desert. And Jesus asked him, 'What is your name?' And he said, 'Legion,' for many demons had entered him. They were imploring him not to command them to go away into the abyss. Now there was a herd of many swine feeding there on the mountain, and the demons implored him to permit them to enter the swine. And he gave them permission. And the demons came out of the man and entered the swine, and the herd rushed down the steep bank into the lake, and was drowned. When the herdsmen saw what had happened, they ran away and reported it in the city, and out in the country. The people went out to see what had happened, and they came to Jesus, and found the man from whom the demons had gone out, sitting down at the feet of Jesus, clothed and in his right mind, and they became frightened. The demons begged Jesus to accept their proposal, which Jesus did. After receiving permission from Jesus, the demons leave the men and enter the herd of pigs. Upon entering the herd, the demons caused the herd to become crazed, and so they ran off a cliff into the Sea of Galilee. Ironically, the demons' desire to avoid eternal punishment resulted in the demise of their earthly hosts. Jesus had no reason not to accept their proposal, since it served his purposes. First, it resulted in freeing the men from the demons. Secondly, pigs were unclean animals under Jewish law, so they were a perfect symbol and a suitable destination for unclean spirits, demons. Thirdly, accepting their proposal didn't change the demons' eternal fate on Judgment Day. Therefore, Jesus accepted their proposal, since the demons were essentially doing Jesus' work for him. More importantly, Jesus was not sinning in accepting the demons' proposal. On the other hand, Jesus' confrontation with Satan in the wilderness was quite different. Satan made specific demands of Christ, which were intended by Satan to lead Jesus into disobedience of God the Father, had Jesus complied. Therefore, Jesus rebuked Satan with Scripture and rejected Satan's temptations. This is the key difference between the two moments. The demons' request in Matthew 8 and Luke 8 did not lead Jesus to sin, while Satan's demands of Jesus were intended to bring Jesus into sin. But we know that whatever Satan and his malicious brood do, there must be an ulterior motive. Let's analyze this motive in this particular circumstance. Why did the demons ask to enter pigs, and where did they go after causing them to jump to their death? Our attention is drawn away from the real issues that this story seeks to bring. This story is so pregnant with meaning, but unfortunately we so often miss the real connotation. What draws attention is the preamble to this epic encounter. Jesus was sleeping in the boat after a day of hard labor after instructing his disciples to cross over into an unusual territory, the Decapolis. A group of 10 settlements that had resisted the gospel for a special reason. The reason becomes apparent when you consider the fact that their commerce was based on rearing pigs, which no Jew would buy. It needed a special type of rebellious spirit to sustain this in such an environment. Obviously these people were Gentiles, and most probably hostile to the Jews. Therefore a Jew coming to preach to these Goyim was already hard enough, causing confusion and fear. The stakes were very high. On the way to this hostile territory, spiritual opposition was already heavy. The unusually rough storm terrified the experiencers and hardened seagoing fishermen, who accompanied Jesus. This was no ordinary storm. They cried in terror and had to wake up their master as the storm raged. Jesus quietened the storm and they made it over. No one was there on the shore to meet Jesus' party, that except one man, who was very different from the rest. He was possessed by multiple demons. Everybody else, who no doubt heard about Jesus, didn't bother to come. Obviously, the residents of this Gentile settlement were opposed to this visit. Hence they were cold and not welcoming. They knew that welcoming this Jew would threaten their commerce. Judaism and the pig industry weren't compatible. Most probably, the devil knew this and he decided to do all he could, to keep these people away from contact with Jesus. What better way to do this than take away their sole business, the pig industry? About 2,000 pigs perished, that had resulted in significant financial losses for the locals. Surely this made them very angry. That was the real reason the demons begged Jesus to allow them to enter into the pigs. Of what use would it be for demons to occupy animals? It doesn't make sense. Especially when those pigs are drowned and die the very next minute. That is why it looks like there was a bigger spiritual battle going on there. The devil wanted to arouse fierce opposition to Jesus and shut out any chances of these people receiving the gospel. He succeeded to some extent because the herders ran to the villages to report what Jesus had done. The villagers requested Jesus and his party to depart and leave them alone, a request which was complied with. However, what the devil didn't realize was that a powerful witness had been planted that side of the lake. He would remain working and witnessing effectively. We are talking about the healed man who was possessed by a legion of demons. Sometime later a call would be received, and this time the gospel received after the groundwork had been done by the one man no one could have imagined. Jesus told this man to go home and tell others how much God has done for him, Mark 5:19 and Luke 8:39. And surely, he did. The demons didn't drown that day. In fact, it's impossible for spirits to die by drowning. Most of the time demons target humans, not animals, as the whole point of entering humans is to destroy their spiritual well-being. After leaving the drowned swine, those demons would have found other human hosts to torment them. The real targets of this story were the residents of these 10 cities. The pigs was just a diversionary tactic designed to take away focus from the real issues at play. As we go laboring for God, there are bigger spiritual battles that we are not aware of. God fights for us while the devil wants to keep us prisoners in darkness. We also learn that the least likely can be a very powerful secret weapon for God. Jesus only had a few moments of interaction with this man before being ordered to leave, but those moments were powerful, and surely had a great impact on the inhabitants of the Gentile territory.